Creative imagination began with a new art form. Makes me feel I belong to something.
Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the Tanel channel. My name is Tanel and today is time to give my final verdict for the ASUS GTX1080Ti, and specifically talking here about the STRIX OC model. And yeah, I guess I'm a little bit late here on the review train, but that's just because it was kinda difficult to get hold of ASUS products here in East Europe, in Estonia. But hopefully these times are changing and I don't have any problems getting the Vega and Volta GPUs in time for the launch. So yeah, thanks for ASUS for sending me one out here so I could do an actual review from the ASUS GTX1080Ti, the STRIX OC model. So in today's video, yeah, we're gonna take a small closer look at the card. I'm gonna talk about it, how good is it, should you buy it or not, and finally give my verdict for it. And of course, I'm gonna show you some benchmarking results so you kinda have some idea how it performs in games. So yeah, let's take a small quick little peek at the video card itself and then let's start discussing about it. So as you can see, the design job on this ASUS GTX1080Ti STRIX model does look pretty stunning, and I mean, it kinda reminds me of a stealth plane or a Lamborghini or something like that. I mean, the black colored finish here, coupled with the silver heatsink and ASUS Aura Sync RGB, I mean, it looks pretty stunning. But there were some things that I maybe thought could improve in the future versions, so that's what I'm gonna talk about right now. So first of all, let's talk a little bit about the heatsink. I mean, it does use a massive 2.5-inch heatsink to keep the card mostly at passive. This means that the fans only spin up when the card reaches 55 degrees Celsius, meaning that most of the time when you're just browsing the web, the card is absolutely noiseless. The heatsink also uses something that ASUS calls max contact technology, meaning the actual heat spreader that goes on the GPU core has been improved so much so that it has about 2 times better contact with the GPU than previous technologies, which improve the heat carryover from the GPU to the heatsink. Basically, the heatsink's GPU contact area is about 10 times more flatter than anything else prior. When the card does feel the need to dissipate some heat, it does it very quietly thanks to some awesome technology improvements from ASUS. The STRIX 1080Ti uses something called max airflow for the fans. It has a patented wing plate design, or shortly, the edges of the fans are bent down, which results in some really good airflow and about 105% more static pressure over the heatsink. And as I mentioned earlier, the fans only start spinning up slowly when the card reaches about 55 degrees Celsius. And as a final touch here, the fans have been coated with IP5X certified dust resistance, meaning a lot less dust on the card and its final fan components, which results in longer lifespan. And well, finally, the looks! With its black design and futuristic looking art design, it really looks stunning. Of course, it's 2017, the golden era of RGB, so this card also has some nice RGB elements built into it, namely the ASUS Aura Sync here. Although I feel that the really thin RGB strips on each side of the fans doesn't really look that great, there are definitely some improvements to be made in the RGB area on future versions, but the design job on the card in a whole is really great. In short, I think the backplate and maybe even the front could have had a bit bigger strips of RGB LEDs. Now moving on to connectivity, we do find 2 display boards, 2 HDMI ports and a DVI board. It gets its power from two 8-pin PCIe power connectors, and of course you can use this card in SLI. There are also some extra fan headers on the card if you wish to use them for your chassis fans, and an RGB header to sync up all your system RGB LEDs. I mean, the overall package of this ASUS GTX1080Ti Strix is absolutely perfect. I mean, if you're out there looking for a 1080 Ti, then this should be the card to get. And yeah, the only thing that I would say that could be better is the price, and that's going up because of mining, crypto mining. So yeah, that kinda sucks at the moment. But anyway, that kinda concludes the visuals and all kinds of specifications of the video card. And I guess it's time to move on to some benchmarking to see how good this card really is. And before I start with the benchmarking, of course I'm gonna show you guys the PC that I used to run this video card on, and of course the driver version for it. And yeah, I did run 3D Marks, I ran Unichin's Superposition benchmark, which is an awesome 2017 benchmark for 4K and 1080p, and of course I did run all different kinds of games like Grand Theft Auto 5, Battlefield 1, Hitman, and Tom Clancy's The Division, and everything in at 1080p and 4K, and everything was at ultra settings without anti-aliasing, because I think anti-aliasing blurs a little bit too much and may vary from video card to video card a little bit too much to get a proper result. But anyway, let's start with 3D Marks and let's see how good this card really is. So, starting off things with 3D Mark Firestrike, and running through the benchmark, I got a score of 24,007 points. A really decent score, but a tad slower than the MSI GTX1080Ti Gaming X that I reviewed earlier. Then again, maybe different drivers come into play here. Next up, I ran 3D Mark x5, which is a DirectX 12 test, and it got a score of 10,145 points. So a great result for a 1080 Ti, breaking that magical 10,000 point barrier with ease. Moving on to 3D Mark Firestrike Ultra, which is a proper 4K benchmark, it got a score of 7,235 points. After 3D Marks, I launched a stunning new benchmark called Unichin's Superposition benchmark. If you haven't tried it out yet, then check it out now. It really has some insane graphics and is a proper 3D benchmark, and has 3D stress test in it using the Unichin 2 engine. Anyway, after running the 1080p medium test, I got a score of 21,904 points with a 163 FPS as average, which is pretty darn good. But I also ran it through on 1080p Extreme preset, and it received a score of 5,899 points with an average FPS of 44. And finally, of course, I ran the 4K benchmark as well and got a result of 9,648 points with 72 FPS as average. So overall, pretty good stuff here. Moving on to games themselves. As I stated before, all games were running at ultra details without anti-aliasing, because it can differ a ton from card to card, and personally, yeah, I don't really like blurred out games that much, thanks to AA. Anyway, first game was Battlefield 1, and well, oh boy. On 1080p, it scored an average FPS of 195. That's insane! And it's getting really close to Battlefield 1's 200 FPS limit. Kinda need to see if I can remove the limit for testing 1080p, as it would become pointless if I can't get any more than 200 frames per second from it. So moving on to 4K, I received an average of 91 frames per second, so some decent FPS gains over the MSI Gaming X model, although those tests were ran with older Nvidia drivers of course. Next up, I ran Grand Theft Auto 5's built-in benchmark, and the fourth and the longest pass on everything at ultra detail, it received an average of 111 frames per second. absolutely proper performance here from the 1080 Ti with such a game. And well, after cranking up the resolution to 4K thanks to my AOC monitor, I received 84 frames per second as average. So totally perfect card for 4K gaming, especially if you love Grand Theft Auto 5. Next up, I ran Tom Clancy's The Division benchmark, and on ultra settings on 1080p it got an average FPS of 145, which again is pretty insane and perfect for those who play on 144Hz monitors. Again, upping the resolution to 4K, I got a result of 61 frames per second as average, which was totally fine as 4K monitors still are confined to 60Hz, though 144Hz panels should be out really soon. Anyway, a perfect card for The Division as well. And finally, I ran Hitman's DirectX 12 benchmark on 1080p ultra settings and got 173 frames per second as average. So you guys with 165Hz monitors can choice over here. And of course, running the benchmark through on 4K, I received 88 frames per second as average FPS. Again, great performance on 4K. So that kinda concludes my benchmarking and pretty much my review from the ASUS GTX1080Ti STRIX OC card. Overall, a stellar card for gaming, beautiful cooling solution that also has some really great cooling performance and noise levels. Now, I did try out some overclocking and I'll post my overclocking results for you now. I can confirm that the max that I got from the card running at 100% fan speed, which meant it sounded like a leaf blower, was 2075 MHz on the core and 11,664 MHz on the memory. And with the default fan speed settings, I maxed out at about 2025 MHz in a room with 23 degrees Celsius temperature. So pretty mediocre stuff here, but this is about as high the 1080 Ti's go overall on air anyway, so you can't really complain here. I mean, overclocking in short for the 1080 Ti's in general is pretty useless, cause you're already getting a really good performance out of the 1080 Ti and there's really no need to overclock the card any further. The FPS gain that you get is like 2 to 5 frames per second in pushing the card almost to its limits. So I don't know, it kinda doesn't sound really good if you ask me. But of course you can do it, or if you're you know, hunting that best benchmarking result or, you know, world records, then of course, yeah, overclocking is for you. But if you're just a regular gamer, don't overclock 1080 Ti's. The FPS gain that you get is just absolutely minimal, and you're definitely heating up some vital components on the video card itself. So in short, don't overclock 1080 Ti's. Anyway, what is my final verdict going to be? I'm going to give the ASUS GTX 1080 Ti STRIX OC a 9.3 out of 10. And overall, I would pick this card over the MSI GTX 1080 Ti. Just because of the design, and it just performed better in games. Although this might be because of different drivers and a small difference in clock speeds. The red color on the MSI model just doesn't fit on Nvidia card. Black is a perfect fit here, if you ask me. The only negative thing here, I guess, would be that the price could be a little bit better on all 1080 Ti cards, and that when you have these passive type cooling solutions, there should be an actual mechanical switch on the video card that would make the card's fans spin at low rates at all times to keep the card at 30 to 40 degrees Celsius in idle and not 55 to 60. As this might be a real downside when building a really compact PC where heat might be a real issue. Yeah, of course you can mod the cards with special BIOSes that have the fan spinning at all times, but this shouldn't be this complicated. Anyway, that's going to wrap up my GTX 1080 Ti ASUS STRIX OC models review. I hope you learned something from the guard and now have a better, understanding if you should get this video card or not. Anyway, I'm gonna move on to some other reviews. I did receive the 1080 Ti ASUS Poseidon video card, which should be pretty interesting to test out. And yeah, if you're interested in that, then stick around. And of course, I have some more stuff incoming really soon. And I'm about to finish my wall-mounted chassis design that I did a while ago, but it's finally now getting finished or getting its finishing touches. So if you want to see that reveal, also stick around on my channel. And of course, I'm gonna review some other hardware also. So if you like that stuff, if you like the video, definitely subscribe, leave a like, and yeah, leave a comment down below what you think about this video card itself. But anyway, that's gonna be it for my video here today. Hope you had fun listening to me and watching the video here, and I'll be seeing you soon in another video. So for now, ciao.